morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you very much for joining us for this important update regarding the Yonge North Subway Extension. Merci de vous joindre à nous aujourd'hui pour cette importante mise à jour concernant l'extension du métro Yonge North. Let me begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the land that is the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Huron-Wendat people. For those of us who are immigrants and settlers to Canada, it's important to recognize that Indigenous peoples have always been here and that we all have a role to play in reconciliation. It's a true pleasure to be here on behalf of my friend and colleague, the Honourable Dominic LeBlanc, Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities, alongside my friend and neighbour Member of Parliament for Richmond Hill, Majid Johari, of course, with Minister Caroline Mulroney and MPP Smith, my local awesome mayor in Mayor Scarpitti, and Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey of Toronto. It really is wonderful to be here and with all of the rest of the important guests and dignitaries to make this important announcement. Notre gouvernement reste déterminé à construire un avenir sûr, résilient et durable pour tous les Canadiens. Our government remains determined to build a future that is secure, resilient, and sustainable for all Canadians. We're committed to tackling climate change, making life more affordable, growing our economy, and creating good jobs for Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It's the strength of our communities that are at the heart of this country. And with that, we recognize the need to ensure that we're making necessary investments to keep our communities strong. This means offering new social and economic opportunities for families, for youth, and for seniors. It also means investing in infrastructure so that we can do right by our people, by our economy, and by our environment. This is why I'm excited to be here today with the City of Toronto, the City of Markham, York Region, the Province of Ontario, to celebrate the release of the request for qualifications for the Yonge North Subway Extension. Our government is supporting this project with $36 million, which is funding the preliminary engineering work that will connect Finch Station to the Richmond Hill Centre. Since the beginning of the Yonge Subway North Extension project, we have been there. You have seen my colleagues, particularly us from the York Region, but Prime Minister Trudeau and countless members of our caucus voiced their strong support for this project. Public transit is an integral part of the well-being of a community. It helps people access essential services that they rely on day to day. It connects residents to work, to school, and to each other. And for many, it can be the only viable option to where they need to go to learn, to work, and to thrive. Public transit also creates good jobs, from the construction of new and expanded transit stations to transit operators, maintenance crews, and small business owners. These investments have a positive impact on the many different areas of our country and our economy and our communities. Our government has always said from day one that the economy and the environment indeed go hand in hand. By working closely with our partners, local governments, the provincial governments, territorial governments, Indigenous communities, not-for-profit organizations, we can build that future that we want, fighting climate change, strengthening the economy, bolstering communities. Together, we'll make bigger strides towards our common goal of a greener and more inclusive and more connected Canada. It's exciting to think that the work that we're going to be doing and what is going to be going on just under our feet in the coming months. And as the Member of Parliament for Markham Thornhill and a member out in York Region, I can't think, it's going to be exciting to think how the Yonge Street North is going to connect to the community and to the people and to the businesses in the north part of north of Toronto. We're going to keep working collaboratively with our partners to support these meaningful investments and projects across the country, especially through the Yonge North Subway Extension. It'll deliver for Canadians, and it's worth celebrating. We're here today to do that. Thank you, merci. And now I want to turn the floor over to Minister Mulroney, who will speak about the RFQ to the Yonge North Subway Extension. Minister, over to you.
Well, thank you, Minister Ng, for your kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I am pleased to be here on what is sure to be a historic day for the people of York Region. I'm excited to be joined by Minister Ng, Deputy Mayor McKelvey, Mayor Scarpitti, TTC CEO Rick Leary, and my colleagues, Laura Smith, Daisy Y, and Minister Michael Parsa. I also want to give a special shout out to the entire York Region PC caucus, who have been such strong advocates for their communities to bring the Yonge North Subway Extension to life. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to Premier Ford. It's been more than 4 years since he unveiled his bold public transit vision for the GTA, and what a long way we've come. Shovels are already in the ground for 3 out of 4 priority subway projects. We've started tunneling on both the Scarborough Subway Extension and the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension within the last year. And construction of the extension is well underway, with upgrades being made at Finch Station for the Yonge North Subway Extension. I remember back in 2018, when Premier Ford and I first met with Mayor Scarpitti and outlined our vision for the Yonge North Subway Extension. We had a shovel in hand signed by the Premier, committing that we would get this project done for the people of York Region. And today, we're here to show that we're making progress and we're delivering on that promise. Together with Metrolinx and Infrastructure Ontario, I am pleased to announce that today our government has officially started procurement for the project, releasing the request for qualifications for tunneling work. The RFQ is another step towards getting shovels in the ground on major construction work, and it will allow us to award a contract to begin tunneling next year. With procurement now underway, we are full steam ahead on this project, and the people of York Region and Toronto have every reason to be excited. Last year, over 400,000 people came to Canada, with almost half of those choosing to call Ontario home. Today, right now, we have a tremendous opportunity to build. Not only to accommodate for this growth, but more importantly, to build for a better future. For too long, the hardworking people of York Region waited and asked for better access to subway service to get them where they need to go. Whether it's for their job, running errands, or going to catch a Leafs game with friends in the city. Our government heard you, and we're delivering. Once this subway extension is built, it will connect the TTC's Line 1 subway from Finch Station all the way to Richmond Hill, providing the truly seamless connection to Toronto that the growing communities of York Region need. And like all of our priority subway projects, it will cut commute times, create thousands of good-paying jobs during construction, and it will help boost economic growth across the region. With the Yonge North Subway Extension, the days of multiple connections to get to Union Station are over. We are building a truly integrated rapid transit network that delivers both local and regional connections for the people of York Region and beyond. But none of this would be possible without all 3 levels of government aligned on one unified plan for transit. With the overwhelming support of both Toronto and York Region councils, as well as the support of the federal government, we are building the better public transit the GTA deserves. In closing, I want to say thank you to our partners at York Region, the City of Toronto, and the federal government for helping to make this important project a reality. Together, we're building the public transit system that places like York Region need to thrive for generations to come. Thank you very much. Je vous remercie. And I'll now turn it over to my friend and colleague, the MPP for Thornhill, Laura Smith.
Thank you and good morning. It is a pleasure to join Minister Mulroney, my provincial, municipal, and federal colleagues, and TTC CEO Rick Leary today. I've been waiting for this fantastic news for such a long time, and actually, as a young mother, I actually went door to door in my community pushing for a new subway. Now, as MPP for Thornhill, I get to see decades of advocacy from our community finally coming to life, thanks to the determination of all 3 levels of government. This new subway extension is going to bring some much-needed relief for not only Thornhill, but the Greater Toronto Area as a whole, saving hours of commute time and easing traffic. Less time spent fighting traffic is more time spent with family and friends. It is also with great pride that I stand before you today. My father was a chief architectural photographer for numerous industrial projects throughout the GTA and North America. He photographed the city from top to bottom, literally. I was beside the original architects, or he was beside the original architects and crew who built the Yonge Line subway. And I'm proud to be a part of the lineage and continuum that welcomes this new line. This project is going to be using some incredible breakthrough technology for noise and vibration reduction. In fact, the tunnel through portions of Thornhill will be the deepest on the entire Yonge Line. We are building Ontario, and we are setting future generations up for success. Easier access to jobs, easier access to activities, and less gridlock. Thank you very much, and I will now pass the microphone over to Deputy Mayor McKelvey.
Well, good morning, everyone. As Deputy Mayor for the City of Toronto, I'm so pleased to be here today alongside Minister Mary Ng, Minister Caroline Mulroney, MPP Laura Smith, MPP Michael Parsa, MPP Daisy Way, Mayor Frank Scarpetti, who I gave a passport for the day to come down to Toronto. He gave me one last week to go to Markham. TTC Chair John Burnside, TTC CEO Rick Leary, and Metrolinx President Phil Verster. The issuance of the Yonge North Subway Extension's request for qualification by the province is good news. It is another sign that we are finally getting on with building transit across our city. All the governments, federal, provincial, and municipal, have come together to get this more than $28 billion transit plan approved and underway. This is major progress, which must stay on track, and I'm so pleased to see everyone here so very committed to finally breaking through the gridlock we've seen in past decades when it comes to transit expansion. The Yonge North Subway Extension will extend Toronto's Line 1 roughly 8 kilometres from Finch Station North to Vaughan, Markham, and Richmond Hill. Early upgrade work is underway at Finch Station right now. The Yonge North Subway is just one part of our transit expansion plan. The $1.5 billion expansion of Bloor-Yonge Subway Station, jointly funded by all three governments, is underway. Construction on the Scarborough Subway extension is finally happening. And as a Scarborough councillor, I know this is a vital line that will make a difference, along with another project I'm so very committed to delivering, the Eglinton East LRT. Tunneling for the Scarborough Subway extension began in January. Tunneling for the Eglinton Crosstown West extension is underway and reached the halfway mark in February. And major work on the Ontario line is starting just next week, steps away from City Hall. This subway work alone is an unprecedented level of transit construction that is underway in the City of Toronto right now. It will make people's lives better. It will give people more options to get around, and that means less cars on our road, which is good for the environment and is good for congestion. This is a testament to what we can do and what we can accomplish for our residents when our governments work together. So I want to thank Minister Mulroney and the Ontario government and Minister Ng and the Government of Canada for working with the City of Toronto to move transit expansion forward. I've had the opportunity to meet with Minister Mulroney recently, and I want to thank her for being a champion for transit construction in Toronto and for working to make sure these projects get built as quickly as possible. We have major transit projects that are being built concurrently, no longer one at a time. We have projects that are good for our environment, we have projects that are good for our economy, and these projects will be good for our city and our region, which is Ontario and Canada's economic engine. I'd now like to thank and invite Mayor Frank Scarpetti to say a few words about Yonge North, a project which I know he is so very passionate about.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor McKelvey, and I just want to say it's great to be able to share the stage with four outstanding women leaders in government, and I really am pleased to be here this morning with Minister Mary Ng and, of course, Minister Caroline Mulroney. It's great to be here along with all of our dignitaries, our stakeholders, and invited guests. We really are celebrating an incredible advancement this morning. And I can tell you, while all of us are anxious to get shovels in the ground, I want to take a moment just to recognize two groundbreaking initiatives. First of all, Premier Ford's ambitious transit plan, the largest in Ontario's history, the largest actually in all of Canada. And secondly, I want to recognize Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government's historic funding of transit, $15 billion. An incredible investment that will fund current projects right across the country, and then an ongoing $3 billion a year. And of course, the incredible support that we have received from our Transportation Minister, Minister Mulroney. I thank her for her incredible leadership. And actually, you were there that day that Premier Ford signed the shovel. I don't know if you knew you'd be Minister of Transportation back then. But I know it was at Daisy Way's campaign office, and Daisy's been a long supporter of the Yonge Subway extension. And of course, Minister Mary Ng, your leadership in Ottawa, your leadership in York Region, I know that this project has been at the forefront of all the discussions that you've been engaged with, and I thank you for your support along with Minister Dominic LeBlanc and Minister Kinga Surma, of course, all of our MPs and MPPs in York Region. I call them Team York Region. And no matter what the party stripe, what levels of government, the previous speakers have said it well, all levels of government are working together to get this project done. The release of the request for qualifications is really, truly another important milestone and step to getting the shovels in the ground. And we know that now we have a big commitment on the part of the province of Ontario, and certainly municipalities, not only in the GTA, but right across the province of Ontario, to build another 1.5 million new homes. So projects like this, like the Yonge North Subway extension, are even more critical than ever before, because it will reduce congestion and connect the Yonge North Subway extension to other rapid transit lines right across the GTA. And what's wonderful about this project is not only economic spin-offs of 57,000 jobs related to the project and the ongoing economic prosperity that it creates, but it also will reduce the 3,300 daily bus trips that will happen on Yonge Street that continue to grow each and every day for the next 10 years until the subway is open. And then it also is great for the environment. It eliminates 13 tons of greenhouse gases daily, and that is an incredible accomplishment through this project. I want to tell you, as the chair of the York Region Rapid Transit Corporation, we are extremely excited to see the advancement of the Yonge North Subway extension. I want to thank Chair Emerson and all of Regional Council as well for their financial support towards this project. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Brian Schiffman and our team at the York Region Rapid Transit Corporation, who've been a very, very important part of this project. And I want to say a special thank you to Phil Versiter and his team at Metrolinx. There's no doubt they have worked very hard, and I would urge Metrolinx and all of us, as we go through the processes of getting this subway completed, to try and really accelerate the process and the construction. This is the most justified rapid transit project in all of the GTA. All of the background reports support that, and that's why Premier Ford and his government, along with Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, and his government, have gotten behind this project. They know that the incredible growth that's happening in York Region, they know the demand that exists today to provide better transit, not only across the GTA, but into York Region. And I truly thank both levels of government. And let's work together because we need to get in the ground. I know we've signed the shovels. The Prime Minister signed a shovel too, but we're going to sign those tunnel boring machines before they go into the ground and truly mark the beginning of the Yonge North subway extension. So thank you to everyone involved, and I'll invite Minister Mulroney and Minister Ng to come forward to take questions. And again, thanks to the levels of government, thanks to York Region. And I want to say thank you to the businesses and to the people of York Region as well. We have been strong advocates around the council table. We completed the EA for this subway over 12 years ago. And I have to say that our community, our business community, they too have been strong advocates, and that's why this project has advanced and become an important part of the transit plan in Ontario. Thank you very much.
We'll now take questions from the media. If you could line up in the line behind me. Just a reminder, it will be one question, one follow-up. Please state your name and outlet. First question, please.
Minister, Brian Mulroney. No, Brian Lilly from the Toronto Sun. Wanted to ask you about the reports, the push to have Phil Verster's contract extended, and what I'm told is a pay raise that would take his base salary and bonuses north of $1 million. Given the problems at Metrolinx, do you think extending the contract and this raise are appropriate?
Well, let me just say that Mr. Verster was hired by the province back in 2017. And when we came to government, we talked about building transit, and the Premier unveiled in 2019 the most ambitious transit expansion plan in North America, and effectively doubling Mr. Verster's mandate. And that's why we increased his salary when we did. We have a lot of work that we still need to do. Today is an important announcement moving forward with the RFQ on the advanced tunneling for the Yonge North subway extension. And so we look forward to continuing to work with Mr. Verster so we can deliver on this important work that we need to deliver on for the people of Toronto.
When it comes to the problems on the crosstown specifically, you've been reluctant to say what's at stake here. In our system of government, ministers are accountable and responsible. So can you tell us whether it's Metrolinx that's the problem? Is it Crosslinx? Is it a combination? Or if you won't say either of that, is it simply you and your ministry that is at the heart of this problem, because ultimately you are responsible?
Well, let me say, as Minister of Transportation, I am accountable and I am responsible for everything that happens within my ministry, including getting this system opened. I take my responsibility with respect to the transportation network very seriously, making sure that it is safe. That is our number one priority, whether it's a road or a bridge or a subway system, a transit expansion, it needs to be safe for use. And so I am fully responsible for the opening of the system. But we've seen in Ottawa what happens when politicians push subway systems or transit systems to open before they're ready. And we don't want that to happen here. So we are working closely with Metrolinx to get CTS, who's delivering the project for us, to provide a credible schedule so that we can then let the people of Ontario know when we'll be able to open the system.
Hi, Lex Harvey with the Toronto Star. I understand that there are obviously some issues that are causing delays in this project, but I just wanted to get at the question of transparency a little bit more. According to an FOI I did and saw some emails between your office and Metrolinx, it's clear that your office is directing Metrolinx not to answer basic questions from reporters like myself. I'm just wondering how can you expect Ontarians to have confidence in big transit projects? We just announced a new one starting today, and we have the Ontario line, of course, when there just don't seem to be clear basic answers or transparency about this major project.
Well, I can say one of the big tasks that we have with building transit is making sure that we are working closely and communicating well with stakeholders, with people who are affected by the construction, businesses, people who live along the different lines. And Metrolinx has been engaging consistently since we began with our subway projects for the GTA back in 2019 of meeting with community members and engaging with them and providing them with the answers that they need. These are projects that are going to transform communities, but building transit is disruptive, and we want to make sure that people have the answers that they need. And so we have been working, Metrolinx has been working closely with the communities that are affected along all of the routes to make sure that we are listening to them, we're taking their feedback and incorporating them into our plans.
So I feel like the answer that people really need is what is the outstanding work that needs to be done here, and will it be completed this year?
So as I said, I would love to be able to provide a date, but that is contingent upon CTS delivering a credible schedule to Metrolinx. And as of yet, CTS has not been able to do that, but I understand that that conversations are going well. And I can tell you Metrolinx has been working around the clock to make sure that we can get to this point, but we don't have that yet. But I am hopeful that we will be able to have a credible schedule soon. And I might turn it over to Phil so he can talk about some of the technical things that Metrolinx is looking for specifically.
Thank you, Minister. We are using every lever and every remedy in our P3 contracts to get our contractors, CTS, to deliver on time. But the key thing is that the quality must be right and the safe transit system must be delivered. And Metro is not a construction company, but we have multi-billion-dollar private sector companies that have the resources, the subcontractors, the people, and the schedule and the means to deliver this. It is how it's organized. Let me give you a few practical examples of what my concerns specifically are. We have clearly, for a very long time, challenged the forecast from CTS to complete in the second half of 2023. Practical examples are the following. There are 260 non-conformances, quality issues that must be rectified. And please understand, those quality issues get rectified at CTS's expense. And similarly, the cost of delay of the project is at CTS's expense. And we are withholding substantial payments against the completion of the project. But the biggest quality issue which we're dealing with, which CTS is dealing with now, is in 2021, the track work was completed. It's outside of specification, though, and it needs to be rectified. And despite our urging and our guidance, it's only being rectified now. And it will have a two-month impact at least on the completion date. And I think what is crucial in terms of the testing and commissioning of the program, which is where CTS then actually demonstrate that everything that's been constructed and put in place is actually working together, have for several months fallen well short of CTS's own targets of delivery. And we have pushed CTS to rethink their schedule and to restructure the resources and the work that's being done on the testing and commissioning. We cannot start. We cannot start with the training of the TTC operators till the system is fully complete and ready. And up to now, the completion of the site acceptance testing is only about 50% of what we expect it to be. And that will now be, as late as yesterday, the CTS CEO gave me an assurance that they will now sit and in the coming weeks, as the Minister has indicated, rethink their schedule and rethink the resources they're putting on the schedule. Here's the last point to just consider. Once the testing and commissioning is completed, then CTS's own engineers must certify the documentation that the work has been done to the specification that Metrolinx have put forward and to the quality that is required. That is about 20% complete at this stage, despite our guidance on what needs to be done at this point in time. So for sure, we're spending an inordinate amount actively managing and guiding CTS in their delivery. And yes, we want this project completed, but I gotta say, my biggest concern is that the quality is right and that we get a safe transit system. We're building infrastructure here for the next 100, 150 years, and we've got to get it right.
Hi there, Lorenda Redekop from CBC. Could you just put in very simple language for people, because I think there are a lot of questions on exactly what the heck is causing these delays for the Eglinton Crosstown. So is it at one spot along the line? What is it? Where is it? What's happening?
Well, I would say, and you heard from Phil some pretty technical reasons for what's going on, but I would say, first of all, we all went through a 2-year pandemic that had an impact on construction projects and public infrastructure projects, not just here, but around the world. That had an impact on supply chains, and that does have an impact on our schedule. And we were clear about that at the beginning of the pandemic. Both Phil and myself spoke to the fact that the pandemic would surely affect our transit schedules. And as you heard from Phil, now that we're looking, most of the system is complete, but we're getting into that testing and commissioning phase, and we're imposing our strict quality control to make sure that the infrastructure, before we accept it, is safe and of a certain quality, as expected as required in our contract.
Did Phil want to follow up with just some kind of simple?
One of the most important simple lessons that we see across all of our contracts and that we are forcing back into all of our contractors and all of our contractors are the following. At the launch of a project, the contractor very often is not as pressured on time because completion is years away and time is lost in the design process. CTS's initial designs were between 9 and 18 months late in some cases. And losing 18 months at the beginning of a project is never really recovered thereafter. Second thing that is really crucial that we've learned and that we've changed on all of our contracts is how the contract is put together. Putting it together as one big contract means the contractor has a higher likelihood of not succeeding because of the scale of it. And breaking our contracts into smaller parts and delivering in parts, such as what we're doing today with just launching the tunneling contract, has a much higher degree of success. And so we've built that learnings and several other learnings into all of our projects across the whole of our portfolio.
And for the minister, we have several big projects. They're P3 models. We've seen so many delays in the various projects. Now we've got the Ontario line starting. Is the problem with that model?
Well, no, as you heard Phil just say, what we have done is we've taken things that we've learned from the Ottawa LRT and from the Crosstown, and we've applied those learnings to the building of our new priority transit projects. Just today, we're announcing a small discrete project for the advanced tunneling for the Yonge North. We broke the Ontario line into 3 different projects so we could maximize the number of bidders who come forward, which then helps make it more competitive, and that's good for taxpayers. And it's also good from a risk management perspective and helps those contractors deliver the project on time. So we have taken those learnings and moved them forward, and we've made adjustments to our priority transit projects that our government has brought forward.
I don't know if this is a question more appropriate for you, Minister, or for Phil, but you talked about the issues with the track not being built to specification. How does that happen? How do you complete an entire run of track and then have to go back and fix it afterwards?
Track is one of my favorite topics, so thanks for the question. If you have track, which are literally millimeters out of out of specification, and it's what we call narrow gauge, and it's too close, the risk you have is that a train runs and actually climbs up on the track and derails. So the degree of accuracy that we're talking about are literally millimeters that must be done right. Still, I would argue it should be done right, and it can be done right. But to give you a sense of it, this is not sort of centimeters of error, this is millimeters of error. Anyone that builds tracks should know that. And so it's unfortunate this doesn't get done right. And there are ways to fix it. There are different technologies you can use to fix it. You can grind it away slightly. You can do very, very, very different proposals. And we and our technical people are all over our contractors when stuff like this happens, and we advise them of what needs to be done right. But I don't control the schedule because I don't control the commercial risk of late delivery. That is for the contractor to decide upon. They must put it in this system of work orders and slot it in and do it right. And as a government and as an agency, we can guide, we can advise, but in the end, the decisions are made by the contractors.
I have a question for you, Minister, on another subject.
Okay, well, just to follow up on that, what I'd like to say is, Part of the delays is that we're waiting to accept this infrastructure, and we're doing this strict testing and quality control on what we choose to accept at the end, or what we decide to accept at the end, so that Ontarians can have confidence in the safety and the reliability of the network that we do accept and that we open. And as you saw in Ottawa, where we force the opening of a system before this important quality control occurs, then the system doesn't work and it's not reliable. And so our government is adamant about making sure that the system, when we accept it, is safe for people to use, because that's what they expect.
We know that thousands of license plates in Ontario are faded, they're peeling, they're unreadable. The 407 and OPP have flagged issues with this. Why does your government not replace those plates?
Well, we've allowed people to come forward to replace their plates as they wish. We've equipped our OPP with automated license plate readers so that they can track cars as they're driving down the road. But look, we've encouraged people to come forward to replace them as they wish, and it's up to individual drivers to do so.
Hi. I'm not hearing a lot of love today for CTS, so I'm just wondering whether it be from the Minister or Mr. Verster, if there's going to be consequences for this company, or if the government is going to think twice in the future before contracting major projects like the Eglinton Crosstown to the companies that make up that consortium.
What I'll say is this contract was entered into by a previous government. And these are important companies that have put their names forward and that are working and delivering this project for us. The contract itself has contingencies and provisions for the need to address quality control issues. And so, as you heard from Phil, some of the work that's being done now to rectify some of the quality issues that Metrolinx has identified, those are being paid for by the consortium members themselves. And so that's part of the contract. But going forward, what we have determined is what's best for Ontario is that we package these contracts in a smaller way so that those contractors don't take on as much risk. It's easier to control the schedule, it's easier to control the work. And so we've got confidence going forward that the learnings that we're integrating into the projects that we have now will help deliver a system in an easier and better way for Ontarians.
Care to weigh in, or?
The CDS consortium already faced consequences for the delay. The way P3 contracts are set up is that if costs aren't justified, the costs are borne by these parties. And clearly, this is where financial remuneration for claims and stuff like that comes into play. But if there's no justification, and with our quality issues and cost issues such as that, must be rectified by the companies in question. I think the really important thing to just keep in mind is transit projects, mega transit projects, 80 to 90% of mega transit projects across the world typically experience schedule or budget issues. And the reason for that is it's not a proud strategy, it's not an excuse either, it's just a reflection of the complexity that's often hidden in how these transit projects are delivered. And these same companies, the four companies in CTS are good companies, they are good players in our market. And this is a contract which has had a very negative outcome for us, but they are performing well on some of our other projects. And I think that's how one should look at transit projects.
And then for Minister Mulroney, on a different topic, so the Bradford bypass, I believe you estimated it originally to cost $800 million. The Premier has since acknowledged that costs for major projects will be going up for a variety of reasons. When the Auditor General looked into this project using your ministry's numbers, they projected it would cost between $2 and $4 billion. So I just want to know from you today if you'll acknowledge that that project will cost more than $800 million, and then if you can give us any sort of estimate of what the cost will be.
Absolutely. Well, the project will cost more than the original estimates that the Ministry of Transportation developed years ago, before COVID and before the inflation that we're all experiencing now. We are making progress on our plan to deliver it, and when we go to market, we will get a sense from the bidders about what the price will be. We want to have, just as we do in transit, we want to have a competitive procurement process so we can attract as many bidders as possible so that we can deliver value for taxpayers.
Bonjour, Camille Griroy de Radio-Canada. Je vais reposer la question en français sur le Crosstown. Quelle part de responsabilité est-ce que la province assume? Vous dites souvent que vous avez hérité du projet, mais ça fait quand même 5 ans que votre gouvernement est au pouvoir. Donc, quel est votre rôle là-dedans?
Eh bien, en tant que ministre des Transports, moi, je suis responsable pour tout ce qui se passe au sein de mon ministère, y compris l'ouverture du Crosstown. C'est bien sûr un projet qu'on a hérité du gouvernement précédent, mais nous travaillons, Metrolink, c'est notre gouvernement, nous travaillons très fort pour avoir un calendrier qui est crédible de la part du consortium qui est en charge de livrer cette infrastructure pour la province. Donc, je suis responsable pour ce projet, mais ma première responsabilité, c'est de livrer un système de transport en commun qui est sûr et fiable, parce que nous ne voulons pas répéter les erreurs qui ont eu lieu à Ottawa avec le train léger à Ottawa.
This will be the last question.
Et donc, il y a beaucoup d'autres gros projets qui s'en viennent, celui dont vous parlez aujourd'hui, la ligne Ontario. Est-ce que vous ne pensez pas qu'il y a un lien de confiance qui est brisé avec les Ontariens, sachant que là, il y a ces délais interminables avec le Crosstown? Comment est-ce que vous rétablissez la confiance que les autres projets vont vraiment se faire?
Eh bien, je sais que les délais qui ont eu lieu ici avec le Crosstown ont causé une immense frustration de la part des Ontariens, surtout de ceux qui vivent près de cette ligne. Mais nous avons beaucoup de leçons à apprendre du train à Ottawa et de ce qui se passe à Crosstown. Et nous avons pris ces leçons et nous les avons intégrées dans les projets que nous livrons maintenant. Avec ce projet, avec le RFQ que nous annonçons aujourd'hui, c'est un projet qui est plus petit, donc le risque est moindre pour le consortium, la compagnie qui va livrer ce travail et ce projet, et ça va nous donner plus de contrôle sur le calendrier lui-même.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.